One of the strongest arguments against a local sun that circles above a flat Earth disk is that the sun does not change angular size when it rises or sets, which it absolutely should do, and quite significantly, if indeed it was continually moving away from you and coming towards you. So when flat earther Phuket Word suggested that it does change angular size, I was immediately intrigued. And he ends up totally debunking himself and the entire flat earth argument. You cannot miss this one. Roll the titles. Hello all and welcome along to another video with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. So on with today's video, which as I mentioned in the intro comes from flat earther Phuket Word. His video is entitled Behold, the Shrinking Sun with a Solar Filter. Oh, this should be good. Take it away, my flat earth friend.
Hello, flat earth researchers, debaters and debunkers. When you point out to a globe earth believer that horizons are created in our eyes because of perspective governing our vision and any observations that we make showing us that the surface is level, and we see the sun rising and setting because of perspective as the sun goes off into the distance rather than the earth spinning around to make the sun rise and set, you'll often be met with the challenge to then show that the sun shrinks in angular size as it goes off into the distance and sets.
And as we have already established, if the sun was moving away due to perspective, it would shrink in angular size as it sets. It doesn't though, it stays the same size. So no, sunsets aren't caused by perspective. The rotation of the globe Earth causes them.
And we can see here in this footage by P900 Coolpix, otherwise known as Sandra, that the sun does indeed shrink in angular size as it goes off into the distance.
No, it doesn't. That footage is just overexposed and zoomed in manually. The actual angular size of the sun stays consistent throughout the day. Countless measurements prove that. What Sandra shows isn't science, it's camera tricks.
Now here's some of my own footage taken from Phuket in southern Thailand, so it's quite near the equator, and you can see that the sun goes off in more or less a straight line here compared to Sandra's footage, which showed the sun going diagonally as it headed off into the distance. We can see the reflection on the water.
Interesting how the sun's path changes depending on where and how you film it, right? That's not the sun changing direction. That's just perspective and your position on a rotating globe. And actually, if the sun really was circling above the Earth, it would always move in an arc across the sky, never straight down. But near the equator, the sun sets almost vertically. That alone debunks the idea of a sun rotating above a flat disk. So what you have done here, Phuket Word, already is debunk yourself with your own footage. And this isn't even the amazing self-debunking that I talked about at the start.
And another important thing to bear in mind here when we're seeing the sun get cut off before it shrinks to an infinitesimally small dot is that we can only see across the surface a short distance, a few miles, with any clarity. Because we are quite close to the surface, we might be about 2 meters above the surface here. So the distance to the horizon that we see on the surface is not very far compared to the distance that we can see in the transparent sky, which is maybe many hundred miles or 1,000 or more miles.
Well, in the case of the sun, we can see 93 million miles away.
Obviously, the cloud and the haze on top or above the surface is going to contribute to the sun being cut off. And we also have the fact that because of the change in angular size in everything that we see, those clouds in the distance are just a thin line on top of the horizon. It's part of the horizon at that great distance, even though that column of cloud might be a few miles high. So again, we see, because of these parallel lines, these vertical lines that I've superimposed, that the sun does in fact shrink as it goes off into the distance.
Except it doesn't. But even giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying it is very slightly, which it isn't, if the sun were just moving away across a flat surface, it would shrink to a dot before disappearing, regardless of how far you could see it. But it doesn't. It stays the same size and then drops below the horizon.
But it gets cut off quite early because we are at such a low altitude above the ground.
Let's be honest here, Phuket Word. The idea that the flat Earth somehow cuts off the sun is absurd. What's supposedly doing this cutting? An invisible wall? A magical atmospheric blade? On a flat surface, the sun would just keep shrinking off into the distance. It would never block the sun entirely.
We all know that the higher you get above the surface, the longer you will see the sun for before it sets. If you go and watch the sunset at ground level and then you whiz up high in a drone or maybe in a lift to a very high building, you can see the sun set again. Now, this is something that's claimed to be as a result of looking down a curve further because you're higher. But again, the horizon will always be there at your eye level.
Except it's not, and that's been proven.
It indicates how high you are in relation to everything else in front of you. So this is, again, our observations being governed by perspective.
Don't get me wrong, perspective plays a part in what we see at the horizon. But when it comes to the sun, as I've already said, the angular size does not change. The only possible explanation for that is that the sun is very, very, very far away and we are rotating.
So, of course, when you take footage like this, there's a bit of a glare and people will say to you, well, you have to do it with a solar filter to see if there really is a change in the angular size. And globe earth proponents, anti-flat earthers will often claim that if you shoot the sun setting with a solar filter on the camera, you will not see a change in angular size.
Correct, but I do have a small caveat to add here. We do see some vertical compression of the sun when it gets close to the horizon. But that's not perspective from a flat Earth. It's caused by atmospheric refraction, which bends light slightly and flattens the lower part of the sun as it sets. It's a well understood effect and completely consistent with the globe.
When in fact we're going to now look at some footage where we do see a change in angular size, despite the claim that there was no change in angular size of the sun.
And let's keep in mind that with a change in angular size, we would expect the entire sun to get smaller, not just that small compression factor I mentioned a minute ago.
So here is some footage by Wolfie 6020 of the sun setting off Sydney, Australia, using a solar filter. And now Wolfie 6020 is an ardent globe believer. He doesn't really like flat earthers, and in his mind here the sun is not changing in angular size as it sets.
Huge channel friend Wolfie 6020. We love him here on the Simon Dan channel. Hello to you, my friend.
Now, because of the filter and the darkness, we can't see any reference to how high this footage was actually taken above the surface, but you can see that it sets there. Let's just play that one more time. And at first glance, it doesn't seem to appear to change in angular size. But Wolfie's just put this footage up here and he hasn't made any measurements of this observation. So I've taken this footage and I've put it into GIMP.
I don't think this is going to go as well as he hopes.
So in order to measure whether there is a difference or a change in the angular size of the sun, I've taken 3 screenshots of the footage we saw just now at different times as the sun was setting, and then cropped and layered them. So you can see over here I've got the top layer here, and then the middle layer, all right, and then the bottom layer under that. So nothing has been changed in terms of size, but just the different strips have been cropped so that we can place all of them on the same image and then make some measurements.
That's great, and from first glance they all look pretty much the same size. If indeed the sun was local and circling above us, the top one should be looking much larger than the bottom one, and lo and behold it doesn't.
So with another layer, I've already done this, but I'll take you through the process. I created a circle that fits snugly with the top one, which would be the largest, and we should then see whether or not there's a change from the size of this circle as we put it around the other two. So let me just zoom in on this so you can see it better. All right. Basically what I did was I took the ellipse tool and then drew around it, and then moved that so it was then placed over the second one to see if there's any change.
I think it's well understood what you've done. Let's just get to your interpretation of the result, shall we?
And you can see straight away that there is a bit of a change there. What fits snugly around the sun at the top now shows a larger circle than the size of the sun, so the sun has shrunk in that respect.
But crucially, its width hasn't, which is what you would expect with a change in angular size. There is a smidge of compression due to that refraction I've mentioned, but very, very small amount.
And if we then go down to the bottom, we can see that there's an even more dramatic change in the size of the sun compared to the original size of the sun when it was at the top right of the screen.
And you can clearly see again that the width has not changed. I can't quite believe that you, as a flat earther Phuket Word, have done these measurements, honestly looked at them and thought, yep, that looks good to me, and then published it. This is genuinely one of the most amazing flat earth self-debunks in the history of flat earth on the internet. It really is. Wow, I think that just about wraps this one up, doesn't it? Incredible, just incredible. Please do let me know in the comments what you thought of Phuket Word's demonstration there and his self-debunking. As I say, we're all done and dusted for another one. And I'm even going to add in this one, dear, oh dear. Thanks so much for watching today, it truly is appreciated. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Hitting the thumbs up button too would be very much appreciated. And if you love this self-debunk, please share it far and wide. I've been Simon Dan, have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you all on Friday for a look at the flat earther Brian's logic. And I've got to be honest, he's not very logical. See you then.